Oh my goodness, yes. I taught classes in sustainability. Fall 2009, I was teaching a class, kind of an intro to sustainability. And as part of that class, we read a book by Muhammad Yunus called Banker for the Poor. And that was really about how he, sort of the origins of microfinance, how we founded the Grameen Bank, why it was important, why making small loans primarily to women actually makes a difference in the economic development in a country. That's a random fact. It becomes important in that one of the students that I had in that class lived in Haiti. He went home to Haiti for Christmas break, and he ended up being on the last flight out of Port-au-Prince before the earthquake on January 6th in 2010. That earthquake was a really big deal. Killed basically the whole city of Madison. 300,000 people died in that earthquake. Tens of millions, perhaps even hundreds of millions of dollars of property damage was done. The world flooded aid into Haiti. So water and shelter and food and medicine was all being provided. And Jurgens was sitting in class with us. He was in my spring semester class. And the class, everybody was raising money for Haiti at that point. Haiti is very close to the, south coast of Florida. And so it was really, it was meaningful. And there's a lot of societal sort of commitment to helping Haiti. And so the class raised $3,000, just from friends, family, aunts, uncles, moms, and dads. And we wanted to send it to a group that was helping people get back on their feet after this earthquake. Many of the people that survived worked for people that were killed. They no longer had jobs. Many of the people that survived worked in buildings that no longer existed. And they had no jobs. But as people want to do, they wanted to continue to support their families. And so we were trying to find a group that was on the ground helping people sort of figure out what comes next. Develop a dream and implement that dream around setting business. We looked from the US side, Jurgens' parents looked from the Haitian side. We couldn't find an organization that was doing it. And so we ended up getting in contact with his pastor, who had founded an economic development group, and said, if we design a microfinance program, small loans for people, would you implement it? And he said, I've got no experience in microfinance, but if you tell me what to do, I can do this. And so we used the Grameen Bank model from that Banker to the Poor book that we read in fall semester and said, here's what we want the loan program to look like. 80% of loans need to go to women. We'll talk in a minute why we target women, but that's a critical component. These are short-term loans, 6 months to 8-month loans. You can't charge more than 1% interest per month. And then the biggest Grameen Bank idea, for which Muhammad Yunus won a Nobel Peace Prize in 2006, was the loan recipients all needed to be part of a group of at least 6 people, 6 to 8 people. And everyone in that group needs to know you are not getting another loan until everyone in your group has paid back the previous loan. That creates both peer support and peer pressure. Everybody's business ideas don't always work out. There could be health and those people get, robbed. But if I'm in a group and you can't pay back your loan, I'm going to help you make sure that that loan gets paid back. I can't take another loan out until your loan gets paid back. So that was the beauty of the Grameen Bank model. That was a really, sort of innovative idea. And I can tell you that idea over the last 15 years has worked really well for us. As a whole, microfinance has very high repayment rates. Our repayment rates in 2023 and 2024 were 100%. Working with people on giving them, with no collateral, giving them small loans, $100 to $200 in the various countries that we're in. So we are in 6 countries right now. We started in Haiti. We added the Philippines in 2014. We added the Dominican Republic, the other side of the island from Haiti, in over COVID in 2020. And then we have Ghana, Kenya, and Uganda recently. So I'm going to talk a little bit in the rest of this talk until the end about microfinance and why microfinance is important and why it works. And most of the slides you're going to see quotes from Muhammad Yunus because he's the godfather of microfinance. He also happens to be the interim premier of Pakistan right now. He's still alive and still deeply committed to microfinance. So the Global South includes roughly 700 million people that live on less than $2.15 a day. That's the World Bank's definition of extreme poverty. My argument to you is that business, entrepreneurship, is the key to fighting extreme poverty in the Global South and creating lasting economic change. And Yunus says the developing world is full of entrepreneurs and visionaries who, with access to education, equity, and credit, would play a key role in developing the economic situations in their countries. The vast majority of poor are ready to make an investment of their own time and money to move out of poverty. Yunus writes, to me, the poor are like bonsai trees. When you plant the best seed of the tallest tree in a 6-inch deep flower pot, you get a perfect replica of the tallest tree, but it's only inches tall. There's nothing wrong with the seed that you planted, only the soil base that you provided was inadequate. Poor people are bonsai people. There's nothing wrong with their seeds, only society never gave them a base to grow on. So whether those people living in extreme poverty need tools or seed or fertilizer or cloth or store supplies, all of the kinds of things that businesses, that the people that we provide loans to, that they engage in. So, corner stores or stores that are in your house and buying inventory for that store, buying small animals and growing them into big animals, or buying seed and planting it, or buying trees that then later become fruit bearing or generating other benefits to the people, buying material and sewing it into clothing. It just takes that first step, that startup loan, to give them a chance to be truly self-sufficient. However, they cannot apply for a loan from a bank, credit company, or credit cooperative because none of them serve the poor. Our target audience is the rural poor. There are no banks for the vast majority of people that we deal with. Yunus writes, all human beings are born entrepreneurs. Some get a chance to unleash that capacity. Some never get the chance, never knew that he or she had that capacity. So here's the difference between what we do and the aid organizations. Though there may be a role for philanthropy, especially in times of crisis, think about what was going on in Haiti, aid can never be the solution to bringing people out of poverty. Now, that may be a controversial statement, but I'm going to stand by it. I traveled to Haiti a number of times after we started the loan program there. There was over $2 billion of aid that flowed into Haiti. There was very little development that could be attributed to that $2 billion of aid. There were a lot of people's lives that were saved. There were a lot of people that became very dependent on that aid. They lived in tent communities and their food and water was provided. If they were sick, there was medicine for them. But there was no incentive for them to ever get out of those tent communities. There was no incentive for them to take responsibility to not only improve the lives of their families, but the communities that they were in. Again, Muhammad Yunus, when we want to help the poor, we usually offer them charity. But charity is no solution to poverty. Charity only perpetuates poverty by taking the initiative away from the poor. So giving people money or stuff like food, water, shelter, clothing, over time creates dependency. Yunus writes, if we want to help poor people out, one way to do that is to help them explore and use their own capability. The human being is full of capability, is a wonderful creation.
but many people never get a chance to explore that. So I'll boldly say that microfinance is the most powerful tool to help the very poor rise above poverty and gives them the dignity. It is those loans that are provided to them that through their hard work, their creativity, their commitment to making this work allows them to improve the quality of life of their families. Eunice writes, microfinance is not charity. It's business with a social objective, which is to help people get out of poverty. That maintaining dignity is part of the core concept at the heart of what we do and part of the idea of microfinance. Eunice writes, people were poor not because they were stupid or lazy. They worked all day long doing complex physical tasks. They were poor because the financial institutions in the country did not help them widen their economic base. So most commonly, microfinance involves making small loans to poor women to enable them to start and grow a business. The additional income from that business helps a poor family to buy food, access basic health care, educate their children, save a little, and work towards a better future. Many recipients in due course lift themselves out of poverty. Eunice writes, when a destitute mother starts earning an income, her dreams of success invariably center around her children. A woman's second priority is the household. She wants to buy utensils, build a stronger roof, or find a bed for herself and her family. A man has an entirely different set of priorities. When a destitute father earns extra income, he focuses more attention on himself. Thus, money entering a household through a woman brings more benefits to the family as a whole. And this isn't just Eunice saying this. This is academic study after academic study. If you give women money, poor women, they will use it to better their families. Oftentimes, if you give men money, they use it to carouse, to drink, for things that are not supporting their families. And sad as it might be, being a member of the wrong sex in this case, it is reality. And so not only Eunice had targeted women, but our commitment is that 80% of any loan in a country, of all the loans in any country that we're in, be targeted at women. And our numbers are actually closer to 90%. I think we were at 88% last year. So over the last 10 years, 1.2 billion people that were previously unbanked, that had no access to a financial institution, have gotten access to financial services. Financial inclusion, the provision of financial services to the poor, allows the poor to escape poverty with dignity by starting or expanding a business. Yet even with this decade of success, the demand for capital is not being met by the existing financial system. This is where organizations like WorldWise Microfinance can make a huge difference. World Bank estimates that there are over 7,000 microfinance institutions making loans in 2025. Many of these are for-profit financial institutions, the Grameen Bank being an example of that, but increasingly more are organized as nonprofits. The biggest difference is that capital has to come from someplace. So nonprofits are able to offer loans at a lower interest rate because they avoid the 8 to 12% cost of capital paid for by for-profit organizations. Where does our money come from? It comes from donations. We are not, we are not taking that money in and promising that money back with interest to our donors. It comes in purely as a donation. The money that's then loaned to borrowers from us as a nonprofit is loaned at a lower interest rate because we don't have to account for that cost of capital. And so we're just better at this than the for-profit institutions. And there are two of them in Madison that I know very well. And they're investment vehicles, right? So you give them $10,000 and they promise you that they're gonna give you interest on that over a year or 2 years or however long it might be. And so that cost of capital that they are incurring, that commitment of interest paying back to you, has to be passed on into the country that those loans are being made to. Our money comes in purely as donations. So then you might ask, what happens to those donations? Money gets loaned out, that money gets paid back. What happens to it? Enters a revolving loan fund. So if you give me $100, you not only help that woman, the first time, she pays back that loan, that $100 goes out to another person. That loan gets paid back, that $100 goes out to another person. And so our donations have this wonderful magnifying effect over time. We've been around for 15 years. We've made over $500,000 of loans. Have we taken in $500,000 worth of donations? Not even close. It's just that, sort of that revolving loan idea. Money goes out, money gets paid back, it enters that revolving loan fund and goes out again. So modern microfinance explores the question, can we make geographic and distribution of wealth barriers irrelevant? Can internet be used to overcome distance so that someone who happens to be born in Haiti or the Philippines or Uganda have a chance to succeed? Well, we think yes. Poverty and lack of opportunity arise from geographic location is no longer necessary or tolerable. We can connect people across international wealth divide and the world will never be the same. Most of our donors, more than half, are in sort of the larger Wisconsin area, mostly greater Madison. We've got a bunch in Milwaukee and other places in the state. I mean, there's people from all around the country. Most of our donors are never going to go to Uganda or Kenya or Ghana or any of the other countries that we're in. Yet their money can make a difference in the lives of people that they'll never meet. And that's an opportunity that I just think is a fabulous opportunity for folks. How do you make a difference in someone's life with what you would spend on a night out on a Friday night? You can literally change people's lives. So microfinance institutions will continue to provide access to capital to the world's poor. About 1/3 of those lacking access to capital are served right now because there are so many, about 1/3 lack access are served right now because there are so many infrastructure gaps that should be not. It means there are over 700 million people right now who live in extreme poverty, but there's no way to get funds to them. So there's a lot of capacity, there's a lot of possibility, there's a lot of opportunity. The success stories of the microfinance industry are quite compelling. Giving people the opportunity to work hard with borrowed money so that they can change their lives is what microfinance provides. And then Eunice says, I think this is my final quote from him, business is a very beautiful mechanism to solve problems. I have to be sort of oriented around believing that business is actually going to help solve problems. But we do. All right, so in 1983, the Green Bank was created with the aim of alleviating poverty and empowering the marginalized poor in Bangladesh through microcredit. We adopted those principles that allowed them to be so successful. They won the Nobel Prize in 2006. Well, Muhammad Yunus won the Nobel Prize in 2006 for that idea. The largest microfinance institution in this country and maybe in the world is Kiva. How many of you have heard of Kiva before? So a couple. So Kiva's model is a little bit different. And let me tell you about the model and then I'll show you how well they have done over time. So they want $25 at a time. Give me $25. Go to my website, the Kiva website, and pick out who you want that money to go to. That money will go out, that money will get paid back, and I'll give you that $25 back. That's the Kiva model. So it's an investment, sort of an investment model with no interest. But you give them money, they commit to give you that money back. So have they been successful? Yes. Oops, went too far. There's an even better number to the left of that, and I can't remember what it was, but they've made $2 billion in loans. trying to remember how many loans, but 5 million people have been reached, 2.3 million loans funded, one loan for one person for every 90 seconds. But $2 billion worth of loans have been made by this model that says, send me $25, pick a person, I'll make that loan, that person will pay that loan back. And you can choose to put that $25 into another person when it comes back to you, or you can take the money back. So we talked about this. The important part about this was, so originally when we created the organization, we were called the UW Microfinance Partnership. That lasted until we became a 501c3 in 2014. And we were called Wisconsin Microfinance at that point. Earlier this year, we changed our name to WorldWise Microfinance. And part of the reason was just very practical. I would get lots of calls from people in Wisconsin that would want small loans because we were called Wisconsin Microfinance. And so it just was a little overwhelming, and it really wasn't telling the story about what we do. And so I've got a wonderful board, about a third former students, a third mid-career professionals, a third retirees. And we went through a multi-month process on renaming and sort of rethinking how we were going to present ourselves. And so WorldWise Microfinance was the conclusion of that. This is just a graphic that we have on the website of how that money works. So comes in through donations, gets loaned out. People start their businesses, pay back the loans. Loan comes back into the fund, goes around and around and around. So some of our loan recipients, some examples. Jeannie runs a very small sari store in the Philippines. These are corner stores. I mean, they're generally part of somebody's house. They just carved off a small part that they're selling things that the local community needs. She used her loan to buy more stuff that she sold in the store. She added things like charcoal and kerosene to the snacks and sodas and stuff. Jacille has a small mobile kitchen, so she's a mini restaurant, right? I mean, she serves people food. She used her loans to buy some new pots, some cooking utensils, a new grill for cooking meat. She was on her own. Her parents had died, and it made a huge difference to her. Antoinette has taken out several loans. She's on her, I think, fourth loan now. Runs the same kind of sari store. This is an early picture of her where she was doing hairdressing out of her house. She since, again, with loans that we had provided to her, set up her own hairdressing salon and employed others from the community. And so is this wonderful success story that how we helped one person and then she ended up being able to employ people from the community. Veronica used her to increase her supply of seaweed. She sells seaweed. And there is a demand for seaweed in the Philippines. All right. When we set up some of the African programs, we had asked our partners with those programs to provide us pictures, videos, stories, case studies that we could share. So this is the one that we got from Kenya, from a group called Tenakata, and they sent it to us in January of this year. Make it go to, there we go.
Salim. I'm the CEO of Tenakata. Today we are here at Kerugoya County, and we are very grateful for the support that we have received from Wisconsin Microfinance, and we are here to do basically we are supporting farmers in this area, and what we are doing is we are using the funds to help them support their agriculture related businesses. These are basically giving them, they work in groups. There are a couple of them. They are like around 10 or so farmers. Each of them has very specific projects tied to this. Like, for example, in this homestead, we came in here and we are supporting them to run. They have a small greenhouse where they do tomatoes growing in the market, and then they also have cabbages that they are doing on their land, and this is all for production. So they do small scale growing of this, but they sell that into the market, and they are able to pay the loans that we have given them. So this has become one of the projects that these are some of the beneficiaries who are being supported through the project.
Naitwa Mire Njura Githinji na mimi ni CRM wa Wendani Kaitheri. Tunalima nyanya na vyenye tulianzia tukiwa watu 10. So watu 10 tulianza, tukaendelea, tukakosa pesa. Mungu akatusaidia tukapata kampuni inaitwa Tenakata. So Tenakata wakati ilikunja, ilitusaidia juu walitupatia 150,000. So tukaendelea na kazi yetu, na hadi saa hii tunaendelea na wao na wanaendelea kutusaidia. Tumefaidika sana na hizo pesa, ndio tulifurahia sana.
The impact is, of course, it helps them as farmer communities. They don't have specific collaterals. Of course, as you know, many of them these are women group. So that is how we go in. We support them, we finance them. We are able to score them, and the rates are very, very low, very minimal. Basically just to see what kind of support, how we can uplift their lives, how we can help them to grow and help their children and to support their families. So that is what we have been doing here, and we are very excited to do that today, to visit them, and in this festive season also to see how they can celebrate with us, and as we continue to grow the business. So we are very grateful to our partners that we are working with, and the whole team.
Sasa tunawashukuru juu walitupea pesa. Tuliwaomba 1,150 na wakatupea, tukaanza kuendeleza miradi yetu. Walitukuta kama tumelima mchele, hiyo tumefuna. Sasa mahali tumefika ni nyanya na hoho. Sasa kile tunaendelea saa hii ni kukusa nyanya na hoho, na kuna nyanya moja tumesidia miti, zingine zinakuja kusidiriwa miti, zingine tunakuja kuilimia mara ya pili.
To grow together, in short, not help grow. We are here to grow together. So in case maybe mtu anafeel mtu anaweza tuambia, hiyo ndio nafasi.
Vile mmetutembelea, mmeona hiki kikundi cha Kagio vile kinafanya, na tena tunataka mtu shikilie kifedha, na sisi nasi tutakuwa tumejikakamua ili tuweze kufanya kazi kwa bidii na tuweze kusaidia na kama kusaidia.
So as we continue to grow into the various counties, so we operate in multiple rural areas. So the idea is that we go to areas where all the other microfinances or the other businesses are concentrating with people in the towns. But for us, we see a bigger market for people who are in the rural areas, and we see there's more impact to supporting them. So the idea is that we are going to grow the numbers as we continue. So far we have a few women groups, so probably like 5-6 of them. but we will continue to increase this as we continue to get more funding from our partners, various partners. We continue to also expand into these markets. So the idea is we are going to grow them, and it's going to be quite a huge one.
Tumefikisha sasa, tuko mbali sana, hata watu wanaona tumebarikiwa.
Niwaambie kweli, hakuna sako ama bank ama mtu ama silo iko na interest iko chini kushinda kata, na interest ni inafanya mtu asinde na kulipa loan. Kwa hivyo tena kata, labda wewe ukatae kulipa, uende tu mwambie mafurutano ya isio mzuri. Kwa hivyo tena kata, kama kuna mtu anataka kuchukua loan, achukue kwa tena kata. Juu hiyo ndio ile kampuni ama sako iko na loan rahisi kuchukua na kulipa.
Which one? So let me talk a little bit about the partners that we work with. So Tenakata was the partner in Kenya. They are an existing business, so it's the only business that we work with. In Ghana, we're working with a foundation. In the Philippines, we're working with a credit union. In Haiti, we're working with an agricultural cooperative. And what am I forgetting? And in Dominican Republic, we're working with a foundation. And in Uganda, we're working with a nonprofit. So it really makes no difference what the organization, how they are put together. We have a memorandum of agreement that we sit down and work and explain to them. And that memorandum of agreement explains the community bank model. You know, target 8% of loans need to be targeted to women, very low interest rates, always have to have groups. And if they agree to that, they implement the program. So we're an all volunteer organization. So we have no paid staff. So when you give us money, you commit right on the website, 90% of all the money that we get goes into loans that we are sending to our partners. All of the decisions about those partners are made on the ground. We're not making decisions in Wisconsin about what a good business idea in Kenya or the Philippines or the DR would be. That would be crazy. So it's very colonial. And so everything is delegated out. We do not pay our partners to run these programs. We ask that our partners already be established in the communities and tell them that the microfinance program that we will ask them to run by funding for is simply another tool in their toolbox to help alleviate poverty in the communities that they're working in. We do tell them that the interest that is paid back on those loans, that money can be used to offset administrative costs of managing the program. And not all of the partners, but many of the partners will take some or all of that interest to offset the administrative costs. Setting up new programs. We are always open to expanding into new countries or new communities in the countries that we're in. What does it take? It takes probably one of you. So everywhere we go, we have a person that we know. So university's been a great resource for us that has a relationship with an organization in a country that says, yes, we could start a finance program if you give us the money. We said, well, yeah, we'll give you the money. The important part about that is, individual that introduces us to that organization has a long-term relationship with that organization, and it holds them accountable. Our greatest fear is that we send, 5,000 or 10,000 out to somebody and they just stop talking to us. we're too small. We're not going, we're not going into some foreign country and starting a lawsuit trying to get our money back. And so what we count on is those relationships that we have with the person that introduced us to the particular partnership. And it works really well. So I mentioned that, we have really high repayment rates, and we do. We also have really good success in setting up programs because of that requirement to have a relationship with someone that, that then has a relationship in the country that we're operating. I've got a lot of other things to tell you, but this will give us about 20 minutes. I'm thinking that you probably have some questions about how things operate, how do we continue to grow, or what's our future look like? So I'm going to open it up for any kind of questions that people would have. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
I'm curious about the wonderful successes you have, and if that allows people to support their family. All right.
Yes, so let me answer that, because that was one of the things I wanted to remember to talk about. Microfinance has been around a long time. One of the common criticisms of microfinance is that if people take out a loan, they have to work hard to pay back that loan, and they're really no better off at the end of it. And so I had a group of students over actually a couple of semesters that put what we call a quality of life survey together. So now, before you take out a loan, you fill out the survey, and it asks you things about, like, what's the roof of your house made of? What do you use as a cooking fuel? How many days were your kids in school? How many meals did you eat in the last week? How many of those meals had a source of protein in them? How many chickens or pigs or goats or whatever do you own? And then, so that's baseline. So then they take out that loan, do something, and they're ready to take out another loan. We have them do the survey again. They do some more, and they take out a third loan, and then they take that survey again. So we have a time series of data now, and we can tell you that people eat more meals, that more meals contain a source of protein, they're healthier, and their kids are in school more often. And those are all the markers for people sort of lifting their families out of poverty. It's not how much is in their bank account or things like that. It really is sort of what difference has participating in this loan program made in the quality of life of your families. So thanks for asking. I'm talking about that. Others. Yeah.
How do you see this growing? Are you thinking you expand the number of countries, or you deepen what you're doing in the current countries, or?
We're very flexible. So we'll go wherever there's an opportunity for us. We're talking about before. Opportunities take forever to develop. There have been conversations that I've had with folks that have gone on for 2 years, and we're still not, opening in a country. So I think our capacity is we aren't limited by our donors and how much money that we have. As we expand, expansion is great, bringing a lot of new loan recipients, but we also have to make sure there's enough funding for people taking out a second and a third round loan. And our commitment to our partners is, as I said, first round loans are about $100 to $200 depending on the country. Second round loans are about twice that. Third round loans are about 3 times that. And in some places we go to fourth round loans, but we ask our partners, essentially what we've done over 3 loans is giving people a credit history. And now they can go to an existing financial institution and say, yes, I've taken out loans, I've paid back those loans, I've successfully done that. People that will back me up. Because if we're talking loans that are $1,000 a loan, that's a lot of money for us. And so we want somebody else to be making those much larger loans. So if we go, if our first round loans are 200, 400, 600, 600 is still a lot of money. And if there's a group of 8 people, all of a sudden there's $5,000 was, committed to that group for a third round loan. And if they would take out a fourth round loan, could be many thousands of dollars. And it's not that we couldn't do it every place. Not with the donor base that we have currently. So we're trying to balance expansion, getting to reach more people, while also helping people sort of step up in the countries that they're in, the programs that they're in. So let me talk about a little peculiar. So I talked about we had 100% repayment rates in 2023 and 2024. We were so proud of that. We thought this is great. So we're in the Dominican Republic, and for whatever reason, and there could be politics involved, the Dominican Republic government decided they were going to deport Haitians that are in the Dominican Republic. Well, the community, the foundation that we were working with, was working with both Haitian and very poor Dominicans. And so as some of those folks got deported back to Haiti, we had no ability to recover those loans. And it put a lot of pressure on the peer groups that they were part of. And so we wrote those loans off. So we will report less than 100% repayment this year when we put out our annual report. But it's one of those sort of force majeure kinds of things. We never envisioned that the Dominican Republic government would sort of say, no, we don't want Haitians in VR any longer. And if you're here illegally, we're going to send you back over to Haiti. So those things happen, and it's part of us learning as an organization. What else? Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tom. I think this is amazing work that you're doing, and personally, I'm really excited.
Yeah.
The work, and I think we can talk more. And also just to agree with you that in the community that I said, home like Malawi, we have really seen how tremendous, benefits engaging, especially like women, age like about terms of like access to loans. Yeah. And the spillover, I think we can see like in nutrition, it's very true. And we have so many stories we can talk about. I was working with Uganda, Professor Nancy Kendros, who's a professor here, and I'm a graduate student. We have a project where we're supporting like grant-aided households, about 200 grant-aided households, but most of it was like soft type of like developing like social development or changing like traditions and all that. Because these grants are supporting like the orphans and families school and all that. And then to that program, which was like funded by family here, we have realized that we have about like 10 groups of people, of which most of them like they up 25 people, they are still working together up to 2 years programming. And what they're doing now is really just trying to go each other. Yeah. So you can see that you have like a different entry level access, but at the end of the day, what they need, really, it's about like access to finances or rather like loans. I wanted like just to share an example of what we experienced. So we had, it was a lean period, and we had thought of giving them maize because we thought like maybe economies of scale, it would be important for us to buy and then distribute it. But what we learned contextually is that the moment we did that, the household size like grew, because culturally in my country, the household of a grandmother, always everybody will come there. So it ended up, like those families, like they could not survive. Despite that, that's what we wanted. But when we engaged with these grandmothers, they said, we want money. We want you to borrow us money. And that's where we are right now, to say the program ended. These grandmothers are supporting children to go to school. Their nutrition is improving, but we do not have they do not have access to loans and so that. So I think I will be very excited. Interested to learn more and see how best we can partner together. But I also wanted just to check with you a little bit in terms of how are you dealing with the politicization aspect of it? Because I know in most of those contexts, when you get you are giving out loans. Politicians locally, they would want to manipulate that and then, make, gain some political mileage out of that. And then also, how are you utilizing like technology? Like now, a little bit like this, like mobile money and all that. What have been your lessons on those issues?
So is M-Pesa,
Yeah, M-Pesa, do money, yeah.
so we're seeing that in Africa. We're not seeing it in the DR, Haiti, or the Philippines yet, but Africa has really bought into the mobile money idea. I am all for it. If we can make all of these transactions cashless and they're just, they're digital exchanges on your phone, it takes out the whole risk of people, going out collecting money, having that money with them, and then being robbed, and that has happened in the past. So the quicker that this transition to mobile money happens, the better off I think everything will be. And I think it's even much easier for the loan recipients. That if money shows up, they know they have it on the phone, they use it in the market, they use it to pay for school fees, whatever. And it becomes all cashless, which makes it much more difficult for somebody else to see it. So the technology part, I think, is a really good opportunity, and Africa is really leading in making that transition to mobile money. So what was the question asked before that?
The politicization aspect of it?
So, I mean, well, one easy answer in Uganda, we're working actually with the chieftain of the tribe. And so it makes it work well. I mean, he gets a lot of credit for this program, even though he's not the one that's making decisions, but he takes the credit and uses that for gain. For the rest of the countries that we're in, I think we're too small to draw the attention of politicians in general. So it hasn't been a big issue for us up to this point. So I mean, it's a ridiculous sense. If we open in a new country, generally we'll start them with 5,000 and then give them 6 months to run a program, show that they can do it. We actually require monthly reporting on the success of the loans and where people are, and told that if they can do the reporting, they can send us this video or give us pictures, case studies or something. We'll send them another 5,000, which can then be followed by another 10,000. So I mean, if we're into a country for 20 to 30,000, that's a lot for us at this point. So it's pretty small.
It's good.
Others, yes.
Structure, how does it look like? Because for some businesses, like in agriculture, like I don't know, growing food, some food techs, like I don't know, maybe 5 months, 6 months. But for a shop, you just need the stock, and then maybe you can start earning money. So does that also change depending on the business?
Yeah. So I mean, you're exactly right. Somebody that borrows money to buy little piglets and grow them into big piglets, they have no money until they sell those big pigs, right? And so for the monthly reporting that we require, it's just a big spreadsheet, right? It's got rows of people's names and how much they borrowed and what they would pay back each month if they pay back on a monthly basis. And so each month we get a statement that says, these 6 people didn't pay anything. And these 2 other people paid what they were supposed to pay on that monthly basis. There's no judgment on our side. I mean, all we're interested in is the loan get paid back at the end of the loan period. And if it doesn't, what's being done to help those folks? So yes, I mean, the agricultural co-op that we work with in Haiti, they're very sporadic on their payments. 1% per month. So on a 6-month loan, it's 6%. On an 8-month loan, it's 8%. I mean, so these are, very, very competitive countries that we're in.
I was just gonna ask, on like a bigger scale of like the Grameen Bank, would they organize the social groups based on like sector? Like would they organize farmers in their own group versus like shop owners are.
Yeah, so I don't know. I know in the Philippines, the groups are more organized along sectors. So one of the groups is everybody that sells in a particular market. That works out really well. They see each other, you know. If somebody's having a problem, everybody knows about it before we get to the loan program. So I guess my answer would be, ideally, that's the way it would be organized. I know in the Philippines that there are other kinds of, so in some rural areas, I mean, oftentimes people didn't even know each other. So others. Yeah.
What does your like vetting process look like for when you're trying to find a new partner in a new country?
So pretty much just what I said. So we know somebody that knows that new partner. That person that we know says, these guys are great. They are committed to, I mean, really, whether we call it economic development, poverty alleviation, women's empowerment, whatever. I mean, the group has to exist with that as part of its mission. And then we simply say, yep, here is an additional tool for you to use in accomplishing that mission. So
how often then are you seeing, have you encountered situations where you're like recommended a partner or something like that you see and you're like, oh, they don't like really fit our mission or something like that? Or
yes,
is that kind of rare?
No, it's more common than you think. People are kind of talking like this, everybody's excited. Say, oh, I know an organization. And they start talking with them and they say, yeah, I guess I'd be interested in hearing more. And then I sit down and talk with them and they're like, really? I got to do all that? You're not going to give me any money? I don't think so. So, it is more common to sort of fail with a new idea than to actually sort of make it all happen.
Yeah. Are the agencies you work with in the country, are they local organizations?
Yes.
Or,
yes. Yeah.
Is that a requirement?
No. No. I mean, so the example would be, would we work with a big bank? And I would suppose we would. I mean, if we were talking with them, I'd say, I still want to work in a particular community. So you choose a community that we would pilot this idea of, I mean, we failed in working with big banks. They don't like the fact that we charge so little interest. And it doesn't work very well with their model, even though we tell them, run these people through our program, they become your customers at the end of this. This is a good thing, but they're like, yeah, we can't be offering loans at 1% per month. That's bad. So that particular example, which wouldn't work out. But I could see working with a larger organization, but telling them we still want to be very locally focused.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else?
Last, have you seen any of the sort of spillovers from the closing of USAID?
I'm glad you asked. I was going to talk about that. So, USAID provided so much assistance in many of the communities that we're in. I mean, they were involved in other stuff, and then as that money is dried up, all the people that were employed by USAID are gone also. But that as the money is dried up, there's been growing interest and growing demand for the kind of assistance that we provide, which is pure financial assistance. And I say that's not true. Most of the partners that we work with do some education around basic business principles. So in Haiti, one of the common markets one of the common things that people have done was go into a big market, buy a bunch of stuff, bring it back to a local market and sell it at a markup. Well, how do you figure out how much you should be selling that so that you're covering the cost of the loan, covering your cost of transportation, and still having some money left at the end? And so that kind of technical assistance is done oftentimes by the partners that we're working with. But the question about USAID, yeah, I mean, that's a very real change that has made a big difference in, I think, all of the countries. So, yeah, that's just a real loss. Well, thank you all. Thank you.
So how did you feel?
Good. Long time.
Yeah.